Get up here, now! Victoria Sterling grabbed the janitor by his collar and dragged him across the Apollo Theater stage. 3 million people watched online. 600 guests gasped. Marcus Thompson stood under the spotlight, yellow rubber gloves still on his hands, mop water dripping onto the legendary floor where James Brown once danced. "Sing," Victoria commanded. "Show everyone what a cleaning man sounds like." She didn't know Marcus had been training his voice for 22 years. She didn't know he could hit notes she had been faking for a decade. And she definitely didn't know that in the next 4 minutes he would destroy everything she had built on lies. But what Marcus discovered about Victoria's charity that night, that's where this story gets truly ugly. Tell me in the comments, what city are you watching from? I want to see how far this story travels. The mop hit the floor at exactly 7:42 p.m. Marcus Thompson heard his name echo through the Apollo Theater like a gunshot. Not his full name, just 2 words that made his blood freeze. "You there!" Victoria Sterling's voice cut through the murmur of 600 wealthy donors. Her sequined gown caught the stage lights. Her smile was sharp enough to draw blood. "The janitor, in the back. Come here." Marcus didn't move. His hands tightened around the mop handle. 22 years of muscle memory told him to keep his head down, finish the job, go home to Maya. But Victoria Sterling wasn't asking. "I said come here." The crowd parted like the Red Sea. Marcus felt every eye in the building turn toward him. His rubber gloves squeaked against the mop handle. His work boots, the ones with the hole in the left sole, felt heavier with each step. Victoria watched him approach with the patience of a cat watching a mouse. "Ladies and gentlemen," she announced to the crowd, her microphone amplifying every syllable, "we have an unexpected guest tonight." Marcus stopped at the edge of the stage. His heart hammered against his ribs. On the giant screen behind Victoria, images of sick children scrolled past. Cancer patients, kids with heart defects, kids like Maya. "Come on, don't be shy." Victoria's voice dripped with false sweetness. "Step into the light." Marcus climbed the 3 stairs to the stage. His legs felt like they belonged to someone else. The spotlight hit him like a physical blow, hot, bright, exposing every stain on his janitor's uniform, every patch on his worn khaki pants. "What's your name?" Victoria asked, though they both knew she already knew. "Marcus. Marcus Thompson." "Marcus Thompson." Victoria let the name hang in the air. "Some of you might remember that name. 6 years ago, he was a contestant on America's Voice. Made it all the way to the finals." Murmurs rippled through the crowd. A few phones rose to record. "Quite talented, actually," Victoria continued. "Real potential. Until he walked out the night before the finale. No explanation, no apology, just gone." She turned to face Marcus directly. Her eyes were cold as January in Harlem. "And now look at you, mopping floors, cleaning toilets, taking out the trash at the same theater where legends performed." Marcus said nothing. His jaw tightened. He thought of Maya in her hospital bed watching the live stream on the nurse's tablet. He thought of the $78,000 he still needed for her transplant. He thought of Keisha and what she would tell him to do right now. Stay calm. Don't give her what she wants. But Victoria wasn't finished. "Tell me, Marcus, do you ever miss it? The stage, the dream?" She gestured at the grand theater around them. "Or are you happier with your mop?" A few cold laughs rippled through the audience. "My wife was dying." The words came out before Marcus could stop them. Quiet, but the microphone caught every syllable. "Excuse me. 6 years ago, the night I left." Marcus's voice grew stronger. "My wife was in emergency surgery. She was 8 months pregnant. There were complications." The laughter stopped. "She died 3 days later. My daughter was born premature. She has leukemia now." Victoria's smile flickered just for a moment. Then it returned harder than before. "How tragic." And yet here you are still cleaning up after successful people. She turned to the audience. Isn't that inspiring? A man who threw away his dream to watch his wife die, and now he mops floors to pay for his daughter's cancer treatment. The silence that followed was absolute. Samuel Jackson, the 68-year-old janitor who'd worked the Apollo for 4 decades, rose from his seat near the back. That's enough, Victoria. Sit down, old man. This doesn't concern you. The hell it doesn't. That boy has more talent in his pinky finger than security. 2 guards moved toward Samuel. The old man sat back down, but his eyes never left Marcus. Victoria circled Marcus like a shark. You know what, I have an idea. Since we're all here for charity tonight, let's give our audience something special. She snapped her fingers at the band. Boys, play Rise Again for our janitor friend. The band members exchanged uncomfortable glances. The gospel arrangement, Victoria specified. With the B6 climax, the arrangement that made me famous. Marcus's stomach dropped. He knew that song. Every gospel singer in America knew that song. The B6 at the climax was legendary, one of the highest notes ever recorded in a mainstream hit. Victoria Sterling had built her entire career on that single impossible note. I'd rather not, Marcus said. Oh, but I insist. Victoria grabbed his hand and slapped a microphone into it. Consider it an audition. Maybe if you impress me, I'll let you mop the stage twice a week instead of 3 times. More cold laughter from the crowd. Quieter this time. Some people were starting to look uncomfortable. I'm not prepared to. None of us are ever fully prepared, Marcus. That's what separates professionals from amateurs. Victoria's smile widened. From janitors. She turned to face the audience, spreading her arms wide. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you the most expensive audition of all time. If our janitor friend can hit that B6, the note I'm famous for, I will personally donate $100,000 to St. Jude Children's Hospital, the same hospital treating his daughter. Gasps. Applause. The trap was set. And if he fails, someone called out. Victoria's eyes glittered. Then he admits publicly that he abandoned his career because he wasn't good enough, not because of any dying wife. He simply didn't have what it takes. Marcus felt the blood drain from his face. That's not... Those are the terms. Victoria stepped closer, her voice dropping so only Marcus and the microphone could hear. Take it or leave it. But remember, 3 million people are watching, including your daughter. Marcus looked out at the crowd. 600 faces. Some sympathetic. Some hungry for blood. Most just waiting to be entertained. He thought of Maya. She was watching right now from her hospital bed. Her nurse had promised to let her stay up for the charity gala. She wanted to see Daddy's famous workplace. Now she was seeing this. Clock's ticking, janitor. Victoria tapped her designer watch. What's it going to be? Marcus took a breath. Then another. Then he did something Victoria Sterling wasn't expecting. I have a condition. Victoria raised an eyebrow. You're not exactly in a position to negotiate. One condition, and it's simple. Marcus looked her dead in the eyes. You go first. Excuse me. Sing it first. Rise Again. The full arrangement, no backing track, just you and the band. Marcus's voice was calm now, steady. So I can see how it's supposed to be done. The temperature in the theater dropped 10 degrees. I don't need to prove myself to a janitor. Then prove yourself to them. Marcus gestured at the crowd. To the 3 million people watching. To everyone who bought a $500 ticket tonight. He paused. Unless there's a reason you can't. Victoria's smile froze on her face. For the first time, something flickered behind her eyes. Something that looked almost like fear. This is ridiculous. Is it? You've performed this song thousands of times. World tours, arena shows, award ceremonies. Marcus tilted his head. What's one more time? The crowd was murmuring now. Phones were raised everywhere, capturing every moment. She should do it, someone called out. Yeah, sing for us, Victoria. Show him how it's done. Victoria's smile was cracking at the edges. She looked toward the wings of the stage where her manager was making frantic gestures. Cut it short. End this now. But Victoria Sterling had never walked away from a fight in her life. Fine. She snatched the microphone from Marcus's hands. You want to see how a real professional performs? Watch and learn, janitor boy. She spun toward the sound booth. Kill the backing track, all of it. I want just the band. Marcus saw the sound engineer hesitate, saw him exchange a look with someone off stage. Then he pressed a button. The familiar intro to Rise Again began. Piano first, then bass, then drums. The gospel arrangement that had topped charts for 6 consecutive weeks. Victoria raised the microphone. She sang. And Marcus listened with ears trained by 22 years in church choirs, gospel groups, and one single beautiful year in a professional vocal program before everything fell apart. Victoria's voice was good. Really good. The low notes were solid, well controlled. The verses showed years of professional training. Her breath control was excellent. Her dynamics were precise. She moved through the first chorus with confidence. The crowd nodded along. This was the Victoria Sterling they knew, the superstar, the legend. Then came the bridge. The melody began to climb. D5, E5, F5. Marcus watched Victoria's neck muscles tighten, saw her shoulders lift slightly, the involuntary response of a singer reaching for a note just beyond their grasp. G5, A5. Victoria's voice was straining now. Not obviously. Most people wouldn't notice. But Marcus noticed. The tone was getting thinner. The vibrato was tightening. She was running out of room. The climax approached. The legendary B6. The note that had made Victoria Sterling a household name. Victoria opened her mouth. The sound that came out was wrong. She hit A5. Maybe A1 or 5 on a generous day. Almost a full tone and a half below the target. The note cracked, splintered, died in her throat like a bird hitting a window. Victoria coughed, cleared her throat, laughed nervously. Sorry, my throat's a little dry. The air conditioning in here is... Try again. Marcus's voice was quiet, but every microphone in the building picked it up. Excuse me. Try again. Hit the note. I just told you my throat is... You've hit that note on every live performance video online, every award show, every concert recording. Perfect pitch, perfect tone, every single time. Marcus stepped closer to her. I have perfect pitch, Ms. Sterling. I can hear frequencies. That note on your album is exactly 975.5 Hertz, B6. He paused. The note you just sang was approximately 1060 Hertz, A5, almost 2 semitones flat. The crowd had gone completely silent. The note on your album. Marcus continued, his voice carrying through the theater. Doesn't sound like your voice. It sounds like someone else entirely. A woman with a lighter, brighter tone. A natural whistle register. Someone who can actually reach that range. Victoria's face drained of color. That's absurd. I checked the album credits last week. Your liner notes list Denise Williams. Additional vocals. She's a studio singer from Detroit. I found 3 articles about her from 2019. She has a documented whistle register that extends to D7. Victoria grabbed Marcus's arm. Her fingernails dug into his flesh through the janitor's uniform. You need to stop talking, right now. Why? Because I'm telling the truth. Because you don't know what you're talking about. Because you're just a janitor who couldn't cut it in the real world. Because you've been lip-syncing for 12 years. The theater exploded into noise. Gasps, shouts, the rapid-fire clicking of phone cameras. Victoria's grip on Marcus's arm tightened until he felt her nails break skin. You're going to regret this, she hissed low enough that only he could hear. You, your sick daughter, your pathetic little life. I will bury you. I will make sure you never work in this city again. I will... Actually, he's right. Both of them turned. A man walked out from the wings of the stage. Tall, thin, with the haunted look of someone who hasn't slept in days. Jerome Hayes, Victoria Sterling's sound engineer for the past 7 years. "I've been running that backing track at every live performance since 2018, Jerome said. His voice was shaking, but his eyes were steady. "She has never hit that note live. Not once. Not ever." Victoria's face went from white to red to something approaching purple. "You're fired." "I know. You signed an NDA. I will sue you for every penny you—" "I don't care anymore." Jerome looked at Marcus. "That man is raising a daughter with cancer on a janitor's salary. He's been braver in the last 5 minutes than I've been in 7 years." He turned to face the crowd. "I'm tired of lying. Victoria Sterling cannot sing the note that made her famous. I have proof. Audio files, contracts, emails. All of it." The theater erupted. Victoria stood frozen at center stage, her sequined gown suddenly looking like a costume, her perfectly styled hair suddenly looking like a wig, her entire persona suddenly looking like exactly what it was: a lie. "This is insane." Her voice cracked on the last word. "You're all insane. I have 4 Grammy Awards. I've sold 12 million albums. You're going to believe a janitor over me." A voice rang out from the front row. Strong, clear, instantly recognizable. "I believe him." Gladys Knight rose from her seat. The legendary singer, the Empress of Soul herself, stood with tears streaming down her face. "I've been in this industry for 60 years, child. I know what real sounds like. And I know what fake sounds like." She pointed at Marcus. "That man hasn't sung a note yet, and I already know he's got more truth in his voice than you've ever had." The crowd was on their feet now, not for Victoria Sterling, for the janitor who had just torn her empire apart. Victoria looked around wildly. At her manager, who was already on the phone with lawyers. At her publicist, who was ghost white and backing toward the exit. At the cameras still rolling, still broadcasting to 3 million people. Then she looked at Marcus. "You think you've won something?" Her voice was barely a whisper, but the microphone caught every word. "You think this matters? I will destroy you. I will make sure your daughter never gets that transplant. I will—" "Ms. Sterling." Marcus's voice was calm, almost gentle. "I don't want to destroy you. I just want you to stop lying. There are children dying right now who need real help. Not your 15% charity donations. Real help." Victoria blinked. "How do you know about—" "Because I read. Because I pay attention. Because my daughter is one of those children." Marcus took the microphone from her limp hand. "Now, do you want to hear what a real B6 sounds like?" He turned to the band. "Play it from the bridge. No backing track, just the band." The drummer looked at Victoria. She said nothing. He looked back at Marcus. Then he counted them in. 1, 2, 3, 4. Marcus closed his eyes. He thought of Keisha, who used to say his voice could make angels weep. He thought of Maya, watching from her hospital bed. He thought of every Sunday morning in church, every late night singing his daughter to sleep, every moment of the last 6 years, when music was the only thing that kept him alive. And then Marcus Thompson opened his mouth and sang. The first note hit the audience like a physical force, raw, pure, unfiltered. A voice that had been silent for 6 years finally set free. He moved through the verse like a man walking through fire. Every word carried weight. Every breath carried meaning. This wasn't performance. This was testimony. The bridge approached. The melody climbed. D5, E5, F5. Marcus's voice rose effortlessly. No strain, no struggle, just power meeting precision. G5, A5. The crowd held its breath. Victoria stood frozen, watching the impossible happen. Marcus reached for B6. The note burst from his chest like a sunrise. Crystal clear. Bell tone, pure. He held it for 6 seconds, the sound filling every corner of the Apollo Theater. But he wasn't done. C6, D6, E6. Marcus climbed higher and higher into a range that Victoria Sterling's backing track had never dared to touch. His voice was soaring now, free, alive, everything it had been before the world tried to crush it. Then he brought it back down. Slowly, gracefully, landing the final phrase with the precision of a surgeon and the soul of a preacher. The last note faded into silence. For 3 seconds, nobody moved. Then Gladys Knight started clapping. Slowly at first, then faster. The entire theater erupted. 600 people on their feet, screaming, crying, some of them openly sobbing. The band stood and applauded. The sound engineers stood and applauded. Even Victoria's own security guards stood and applauded. On the live stream, the comments were moving too fast to read. The viewer count had climbed to 4.5 million. Marcus stood under the spotlight, breathing hard, barely comprehending what had just happened. Then he looked at Victoria Sterling. She was staring at him with an expression he couldn't read. Anger, yes. Fear, definitely. But something else too. Something that almost looked like recognition. Like she was seeing for the first time what a real singer looked like. That Gladys Knight's voice cut through the chaos is what music is supposed to sound like. That is what truth sounds like. She pointed at Marcus. I don't know your full story, young man, but I know a gift when I hear one. And honey, you have been given a gift from God himself. Marcus opened his mouth to respond, but before he could speak, his phone buzzed in his pocket. The hospital. His blood turned to ice. He stepped back from the microphone, pulled out his phone, and answered. Mr. Thompson, it was Dr. Patterson, Maya's oncologist. We need you here, now. What's wrong? Is Maya? She's stable, but there's been a development, a significant one. The doctor paused. How fast can you get here? Marcus looked at the chaos around him. Victoria Sterling arguing with her lawyers. Gladys Knight being surrounded by reporters. Jerome Hayes being interviewed by 3 different news crews simultaneously. I'm on my way. He pushed through the crowd, ignoring the shouted questions, the reaching hands, the flashing cameras. Samuel Jackson met him at the stage door, his old face split into a grin. You did it, son. You really did it. I need to get to the hospital, Sam. Samuel's smile faded. Maya? I don't know. They just said to come. Samuel grabbed his arm. Then go. I'll clean up here. He pressed something into Marcus's hand. Car keys. Take my truck. It's faster than the subway. Sam, I can't. Boy, don't argue with me. Your daughter needs you. Go. Marcus ran. He didn't know yet that his performance had already been viewed 30 million times. He didn't know that hashtags bearing his name were trending in 40 countries. He didn't know that John Legend had already sent a text to his manager saying, "Find that janitor, whatever it takes." He didn't know that Victoria Sterling's lawyers were already preparing a $15 million defamation lawsuit. He didn't know that in 24 hours his face would be on every news channel in America. All Marcus knew was that his daughter needed him. And this time, he was not going to be too late. Marcus pushed through the hospital doors at 9:47 p.m. His janitor's uniform was still damp with sweat from the stage lights. His hands were still trembling from what had happened at the Apollo. The elevator took forever. 3rd floor. Pediatric oncology. The hallway smelled like antiseptic and fear. Dr. Patterson was waiting outside Maya's room. The oncologist was a tall black woman in her 50s with gray streaks in her hair and eyes that had seen too much death to sugarcoat anything. Mr. Thompson, thank you for coming so quickly. Is Maya okay? What happened? She's fine. Sleeping now. Dr. Patterson put a hand on his shoulder. But we need to talk. Not here. My office. Marcus looked through the window into Maya's room. His daughter lay in the hospital bed, small and fragile tubes running from her arms, her favorite stuffed elephant tucked under her chin. The heart monitor beeped steadily. Alive, still alive. She watched your performance, Dr. Patterson said quietly. The whole ward did. The nurses couldn't stop talking about it. I didn't plan for that to happen. I know. The doctor gestured down the hallway. Come. There's something you need to see. They walked in silence to Dr. Patterson's office. Marcus's mind was racing. A development, she had said. Significant. In cancer treatment, significant could mean anything. A new tumor. Organ failure. The end. Dr. Patterson closed the door behind them and sat behind her desk. She pulled up something on her computer, then turned the screen toward Marcus. This started about 45 minutes ago, right after your performance went viral. Marcus leaned forward. It was a GoFundMe page. His name was on it. Maya's picture was at the top. The number next to raised made his heart stop. $847,000. That can't be right. It was at $12,000 when I called you. It's been climbing ever since. Dr. Patterson refreshed the page. $856,000. Someone named Gladys Knight donated $100,000 about 20 minutes ago. John Legend matched it 10 minutes later. Marcus couldn't breathe. His vision was blurring. He gripped the edge of the desk to keep from falling. Mr. Thompson. Marcus. Dr. Patterson's voice was gentle but firm. This changes everything. We can schedule Maya's transplant for next week. We can get her the best specialists in the country. We can... It's not real. Excuse me. It can't be real. Marcus shook his head. Things like this don't happen. Not to people like me. Not to... His phone buzzed. Then again. Then it didn't stop buzzing. Dr. Patterson smiled. I think you should answer that. Marcus looked at his screen. 47 missed calls. Over 200 text messages. Emails flooding in faster than he could count. He opened the first text. It was from a number he didn't recognize. Mr. Thompson, this is Angela Davis from CNN. We'd like to interview you about tonight's events. Please call us at your earliest convenience. The next text was from NBC, then ABC, then Fox News, then a number that made Marcus's throat close up. Marcus, this is Quincy Jones III. I was at the Apollo tonight. We need to talk about your future. Dr. Patterson was watching him with something that looked almost like wonder. The world just discovered what we in this hospital have known for months, Mr. Thompson. That you're something special. I'm a janitor. You're a father. Who happens to have the voice of an angel. She stood and walked around the desk. Maya's going to be fine now. The money is there. The resources are there. You gave her a future tonight, Marcus. Not with a mop, with your voice. Marcus finally let the tears come. He had spent 6 years holding everything together, working double shifts, counting pennies, lying awake at night doing math that never added up to enough. And now, in the span of 2 hours, everything had changed. Can I see her? Of course. She's been asking for you. Marcus walked back to Maya's room. His daughter's eyes were open now, watching the door. Daddy? Her voice was weak, but her smile was pure sunshine. Hey, baby girl. Marcus pulled a chair next to her bed and took her hand. How you feeling? Tired, but happy. Maya's eyes were bright despite the exhaustion. I watched you sing Daddy, on the nurse's phone. Yeah. You were so good. Everyone was crying. Even Nurse Jackie, and she never cries. Marcus laughed, though tears were still streaming down his face. I didn't mean to make anyone cry. Good crying, Daddy. Happy crying. Maya squeezed his hand with what little strength she had. You sounded like Mommy said. Like angels. Marcus's chest tightened. Mommy talked about my singing all the time. She said your voice was magic. She said one day the whole world would hear it. Maya's eyes started to droop. I think today was that day, Daddy. Maybe it was baby. Maybe it was. Daddy. Yeah. Are we going to be okay now? Marcus thought about the GoFundMe page, about the texts from CNN and NBC, about Quincy Jones III wanting to talk about his future. "Yeah, Maya, we're going to be okay." She smiled and closed her eyes. Within seconds, her breathing slowed into the rhythm of sleep. Marcus sat there holding his daughter's hand, watching her chest rise and fall, listening to the steady beep of the heart monitor. For the first time in 6 years, he let himself believe that tomorrow might be better than today. His phone buzzed again. He almost ignored it. Then he saw the name. Samuel Jackson. He answered quietly. "Sam. Boy, you need to turn on the news. Right now." "Why? What's happening?" "Victoria Sterling just held a press conference. She's suing you for $15 million. The blood drained from Marcus's face. "What? Defamation, she's calling it. Tortious interference with business relationships. Intentional infliction of emotional distress." Samuel's voice was tight with anger. "She's also suing Jerome Hayes, the Apollo Theater, and 3 of the news networks that covered your performance." Marcus looked at Maya, still sleeping peacefully. $15 million. He couldn't even comprehend that number. It was more money than he would make in 20 lifetimes of mopping floors. "That's not all," Samuel continued. "Her lawyers are saying they're going to subpoena Maya's medical records. They're claiming you staged the whole thing for sympathy, that your daughter isn't really sick." "That's insane." "I know, but she's got money, Marcus. She's got lawyers. She's got connections." Samuel paused. "She's going to try to destroy you before the truth can save you." Marcus closed his eyes. 2 hours ago, he had been mopping a stage. Now he was facing a lawsuit that could ruin what was left of his life. "What do I do, Sam?" "You fight. That's what you do. You fought for your wife. You fought for your daughter. Now you fight for yourself." "I don't have lawyers. I don't have money. I don't have—" "You have a voice, and tonight 3 million people heard it." Samuel's tone softened. "Go to sleep, son. Hold your daughter. In the morning you'll see. The world isn't going to let Victoria Sterling win this one." Marcus hung up and looked at Maya. Still sleeping. Still peaceful. Still completely unaware that their lives had just become a battlefield. He pulled the thin hospital blanket up to her chin and kissed her forehead. "I won't let anyone hurt you, baby. I promise." Then he settled into the uncomfortable hospital chair, closed his eyes, and waited for the storm. It came faster than he expected. By 6 a.m., Marcus's phone had died from the constant notifications. He borrowed a charger from one of the nurses and watched the chaos unfold on the small TV in Maya's room. Every channel was running the story. Every single one. Janitor exposes Grammy-winning singer's decade of deception. Victoria Sterling's career in ruins after viral confrontation. The voice that shook the music industry. They were showing clips of his performance on loop. The moment he hit the B6. The moment Victoria's voice cracked. The moment Gladys Knight stood up and called him a gift from God. But they were also showing Victoria's press conference from the previous night. "This man is a con artist," Victoria said on screen, her face carefully composed into an expression of wounded dignity. "He has concocted an elaborate scheme to extort money from me and destroy my reputation. His daughter's illness, while tragic, is being used as a prop to generate sympathy and donations." Marcus felt sick. "I have retained legal counsel, and we will be pursuing every available avenue to hold Mr. Thompson accountable for his malicious lies. I have worked too hard and sacrificed too much to let a disgruntled janitor tear down everything I've built." The reporter's voice cut in. "Ms. Sterling, several witnesses have corroborated Mr. Thompson's claims, including your own sound engineer." Victoria's composure cracked for just a moment. "Jerome Hayes is a troubled individual with his own agenda. His statements cannot be trusted." "What about the audio analysis showing the backing track?" "This press conference is over." Marcus turned off the TV. Maya was starting to wake up, and he didn't want her to see any of this. Morning, Daddy. Morning, baby girl. How do you feel? Hungry? Maya rubbed her eyes. Can I have pancakes? Let me ask the nurse what you're allowed to eat, okay? Marcus stepped into the hallway and almost walked directly into a woman he didn't recognize. She was in her 40s, black, wearing a suit that probably cost more than his monthly rent. Mr. Thompson? Who's asking? My name is Denise Chambers. I'm an attorney with Morrison and Associates. She extended her hand. Marcus didn't take it. I'm here to help you. I can't afford a lawyer. I know. That's why I'm offering to represent you pro bono. Marcus studied her face, looking for the catch. Why? Because what Victoria Sterling is doing is exactly what powerful people do to silence those who tell the truth. Because my firm believes the legal system shouldn't be a weapon for the wealthy to crush the poor. She paused. And because my mother died of leukemia when I was 12. I know what your daughter is going through. Marcus let out a breath he didn't realize he'd been holding. What do I need to do? First, you need to stop talking to reporters. Every word you say can be used against you in court. Second, I need you to tell me everything, from the beginning. Every detail you can remember about last night. Right now, my daughter. I understand. But Victoria's lawyers are already moving. They filed for an emergency injunction this morning to freeze the GoFundMe donations. They're claiming the money was obtained through fraud. Marcus felt the floor shift beneath his feet. They can do that. They can try. They probably won't succeed, but they can tie up the money in court for months, maybe years. Denise's expression was grim. That's what she's counting on. She knows your daughter needs that transplant now. She's hoping the delay will break you. So what do? We fight back, but I need to know everything. Denise pulled out her phone. Starting with what really happened at the Apollo last night. Marcus told her. Everything. He told her about the night 6 years ago when Keisha collapsed, about leaving America's Voice without explanation, about Victoria's public condemnation that closed every door in the industry, about the 5 years of double shifts and empty refrigerators and counting Maya's pills to make sure they had enough for the week. He told her about last night, about the mop hitting the floor, about Victoria's fingers digging into his shoulder, about the moment when he heard her voice crack and knew with absolute certainty that the woman who had destroyed his career was a fraud. Denise recorded everything on her phone, occasionally asking clarifying questions. When Marcus finished, she was quiet for a long moment. Mr. Thompson, I need to ask you something, and I need you to be completely honest with me. Okay. Is there anything in your past that Victoria's lawyers could use against you? Arrests, drug problems, anything they could use to paint you as unreliable or dishonest? Marcus shook his head. I've never been arrested. I don't drink. I don't do drugs. The only thing I've done for the past 6 years is work and take care of my daughter. What about the night you left America's Voice? Is there anyone who can corroborate that Keisha was in the hospital? The hospital records. The doctors. Keisha's mother was there when she died. Denise nodded slowly. Good. That's good. She stood. I need to make some calls. In the meantime, don't talk to anyone. Not reporters, not strangers, not anyone claiming to be from record labels or TV shows. Everything goes through me from now on. What about the GoFundMe money? I'm going to fight to get it released, but it might take a few days. She paused at the door. Mr. Thompson, I want you to understand something. What you did last night took incredible courage. You stood up to one of the most powerful people in the music industry and told the truth. That's rare. That matters. I just wanted to help the kids at St. Jude. I know. And that's exactly what Victoria Sterling is afraid of. Denise's expression hardened. She's not afraid you'll destroy her career. That's already happening. She's afraid you'll expose what she's really been doing with those charity donations. She's afraid you'll follow the money. What do you mean? The charity gala last night was supposed to raise $400,000 for St. Jude. According to Victoria's own website, only 15% of her charity event's proceeds actually reach the hospitals. Denise let that sink in. That means out of $400,000, only $60,000 would go to sick children. The rest goes to administrative costs. Her management company, her production team, her. Marcus thought of Maya, of all the children like her counting on people like Victoria Sterling to help them. That's fraud. It's a gray area, technically legal but morally bankrupt. Denise opened the door. But if we can prove she knew the donations weren't going where she promised, that changes everything. She left Marcus standing in the hallway, his mind racing. Victoria Sterling wasn't just a fake singer. She was using sick children to line her own pockets, and she had been doing it for years. His phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "Mr. Thompson, my name is Autumn Williams. I think you know my mother, Denise Williams. The woman whose voice Victoria Sterling stole. We need to talk." Marcus stared at the message. Denise Williams, the studio singer from Detroit. The woman who actually sang those high notes on Victoria's albums. His fingers trembled as he typed his response. When and where? The reply came instantly. Harlem, 125th Street. The diner across from the Apollo. 1 hour. Come alone. Marcus looked back at Maya's room. His daughter was eating breakfast now, laughing at something the nurse had said. He had 1 hour to make a decision that could change everything. 1 hour to decide if he was willing to go to war. He texted back 2 words. "I'll be there." Then he walked back into Maya's room, kissed his daughter on the forehead, and told her he had to run an errand. "Will you be back soon, Daddy?" "Soon as I can, baby." "Promise?" Marcus looked into his daughter's eyes. The same eyes as her mother, full of trust and hope and a faith in him that he wasn't sure he deserved. "I promise." He walked out of the hospital and headed for Harlem. The diner on 125th Street was nearly empty at 7:30 in the morning. Marcus spotted her immediately, a young woman in her mid-20s sitting alone in a booth near the back. She had her mother's features, but her eyes held a hardness that spoke of years of keeping secrets. Marcus slid into the seat across from her. "Autumn Williams. Mr. Thompson." She didn't smile. "Thank you for coming. Your mother is Denise Williams, the studio singer. The woman whose voice built Victoria Sterling's entire career." Autumn's jaw tightened. The woman who's been living in poverty for 12 years while Victoria made millions off her talent. Why hasn't she come forward? She signed an NDA, non-disclosure agreement. Victoria's lawyers made it very clear what would happen if she ever talked. Autumn pulled a folder from her bag. "But I never signed anything." She opened the folder and spread its contents across the table. Contracts, emails, recording session logs, financial documents. This is everything. 12 years of proof that Victoria Sterling cannot sing above G5 on her best day. 12 years of my mother being paid pennies while Victoria took all the credit. 12 years of lies. Marcus picked up one of the contracts. His hands were shaking. "Why are you giving this to me?" "Because you did what my mother was too scared to do. You stood up." Autumn's voice cracked slightly. "I watched your performance last night. I watched you hit that B6 like it was nothing. I watched Victoria's face when she realized the whole world was about to find out the truth." She paused. "My mother cried for 2 hours. Happy tears. The first happy tears I've seen from her in 12 years. Where is she now?" "Hiding. She's terrified Victoria's lawyers will come after her." Autumn gathered the documents back into the folder. "But she wanted you to have this. She said if anyone deserves the truth, it's you." Marcus held the folder like it was made of glass. "This is enough to destroy Victoria Sterling." "I know." "Why me? Why not take this to the press, to the police?" Autumn looked at him for a long moment. "Because you have something my mother never had. You have a platform. After last night, the whole world is watching you. The whole world wants to know your story." She leaned forward. "Use that. Tell the truth. Not just about the lip-syncing. About all of it. The charity fraud, the stolen voices, The NDAs used to silence people who spoke up. Victoria's suing me for $15 million. I know, but with what's in this folder you can countersue. You can turn this whole thing around. Autumn stood. My mother's been silent for 12 years. She can't fight anymore, but you can. She placed a hand on Marcus's shoulder. Do it for your daughter. Do it for all the sick kids Victoria's been stealing from. Do it for every person who's ever been silenced by someone with more money and more power. She walked toward the door, then stopped. And Mr. Thompson, one more thing. Yeah? Jerome Hayes, Victoria's sound engineer, the one who spoke up for you last night. Autumn's expression darkened. Victoria's lawyers had him arrested this morning, violation of NDA. He's being held on a $100,000 bail. The news hit Marcus like a physical blow. They can arrest someone for that. They can arrest anyone for anything if they have enough money and enough lawyers. Autumn pulled her coat tighter. Jerome put everything on the line to tell the truth about Victoria, and now he's sitting in a cell because of it. She left Marcus alone in the booth with a folder full of evidence and a choice that suddenly felt much heavier. Jerome Hayes was in jail because of what happened last night, because he chose to stand with Marcus instead of staying silent. Marcus thought about what Samuel had said. You fight. That's what you do. He pulled out his phone and called Denise Chambers. Mr. Thompson, I thought I told you not to. I need you to come to the diner on 125th Street. Now. What's going on? I have something. Something that changes everything. Marcus looked down at the folder. And I need you to help me get Jerome Hayes out of jail. There was a pause on the other end. I'll be there in 20 minutes. Marcus hung up and waited. The war had just begun. Denise Chambers arrived at the diner in exactly 18 minutes. She slid into the booth across from Marcus, her eyes immediately locking onto the folder. What is this? Proof. Marcus pushed the folder toward her. 12 years of contracts, emails, recording sessions. Everything that shows Victoria Sterling has been using other singers' voices and claiming them as her own. Denise opened the folder and began reading. Her expression shifted from skepticism to shock to something that looked almost like hunger. Where did you get this? Denise Williams's daughter. She found me this morning. The studio singer. The woman who actually sings those high notes. Marcus watched Denise flip through the documents. Victoria's been paying her $2,000 a song while making millions. And she forced her to sign an NDA that threatened to destroy her if she ever talked. Denise pulled out one particular email and read it twice. Her jaw tightened. This is a direct communication from Victoria's manager acknowledging that the vocal tracks on her albums are not performed by Victoria Sterling. She looked up at Marcus. Do you understand what this means? It means she's been lying. It means she's been committing fraud, not just against her fans, against everyone who ever bought a ticket thinking they were going to hear her sing live. Denise closed the folder. This changes our entire strategy. What about Jerome Hayes? The sound engineer. Victoria had him arrested this morning. $100,000 bail. He's sitting in a cell right now because he told the truth. Denise was quiet for a moment. Then she pulled out her phone. I know a bail bondsman. We can have Jerome out by noon. I don't have money for... I'll cover it. Consider it an investment. She was already dialing. If Jerome Hayes is willing to testify combined with these documents and the footage from last night, Victoria Sterling's lawsuit isn't just going to fail. It's going to backfire spectacularly. Marcus listened as Denise made arrangements. Within 20 minutes, she had secured Jerome's release and scheduled an emergency meeting with a judge to challenge the freeze on the GoFundMe funds. There's something else, Marcus said when she hung up. The charity donations. What about them? Only 15% of the money from Victoria's charity events actually goes to the hospitals. The rest goes to administrative costs, her management company, her production team. Denise's eyes narrowed. How do you know that? I found an article last year. Nobody paid attention to it. Marcus leaned forward. My daughter is in that hospital right now because she has cancer. There are kids dying in there waiting for treatment they can't afford. And Victoria Sterling has been throwing galas and concerts, collecting millions of dollars and keeping 85% for herself. That's not illegal technically, as long as the charity is structured correctly. But it's wrong. Yes, it's wrong. Denise was studying Marcus with new respect. You're not just fighting for yourself, are you? I'm fighting for Maya. I'm fighting for every kid in that hospital. Marcus's voice hardened. And I'm fighting for every person Victoria Sterling has ever silenced or stolen from. Denise nodded slowly. Then let's fight. They spent the next 2 hours going through the folder document by document. Denise took photos of everything, made copies, secured the originals in her briefcase. By 10 o'clock, she had enough ammunition to launch a counterattack that Victoria Sterling wouldn't see coming. I need to file these with the court today, Denise said. We're going to countersue, not just for defamation, for fraud, breach of contract, intentional infliction of emotional distress, and tortious interference with your career. What does that mean? It means we're going to argue that Victoria Sterling deliberately destroyed your career 6 years ago, not because you were unprofessional, but because she was afraid of you. Afraid of your voice. Afraid of what you might become. Marcus thought about the night he left America's Voice, about Victoria's cold words on every morning show, about the doors that slammed shut one by one. She knew. I think so. You were the real thing, Marcus. A genuine talent who could actually hit those notes she was faking. If you had won that competition, if you had gotten a record deal, eventually someone would have compared your voice to hers, and they would have noticed that hers didn't sound quite right. Denise paused. You were a threat, so she eliminated you. The weight of 6 years crashed down on Marcus all at once. The poverty, the exhaustion, the nights he went hungry so Maya could eat. The mornings he woke up at 4 a.m. to mop floors before his shift at the restaurant. All of it because Victoria Sterling was afraid of him. I need to see my daughter. Of course, go. Denise gathered her things. I'll handle the legal filings. I'll call you when Jerome is released. And Marcus. Yeah, don't talk to anyone. Not reporters, not lawyers, not anyone. The next 48 hours are critical. Victoria's team is going to try everything to discredit you. They're going to dig into your past, your finances, your relationships. They're going to look for anything they can use. There's nothing to find. Good. Keep it that way. Marcus left the diner and headed back to the hospital. His mind was spinning with everything he'd learned. Victoria Sterling. The stolen voices. The charity fraud. Jerome Hayes sitting in a jail cell. And underneath it all, Maya. His little girl. Waiting for a transplant that might save her life. When Marcus walked into Maya's room, she was sitting up in bed watching cartoons. Her face lit up when she saw him. Daddy? You were gone forever. I know, baby. I'm sorry. He kissed her forehead and sat down beside her. How are you feeling? Better. Dr. Patterson said my numbers are good today. Maya pointed at the TV. Look, they're talking about you again. Marcus looked at the screen. His own face stared back at him, frozen in mid-song from the previous night. The headline read, Janitor's Viral Performance Exposes Music Industry Scandal. You're famous, Daddy. I don't want to be famous, Maya. Why not famous people get to do cool stuff? Marcus turned off the TV. Sometimes famous people have problems that regular people don't have. Sometimes people want to hurt you because you're famous. Maya's expression turned serious. Is someone trying to hurt you, Daddy? Marcus looked at his daughter, 7 years old, fighting cancer, and still worried about him. There's a woman who's very angry at me right now. She thinks I said things about her that weren't true. Did you? No, baby. Everything I said was true. But she has a lot of money and a lot of lawyers, and she's trying to make people think I'm a liar. Maya was quiet for a moment. Then she reached out and took his hand. Mommy always said the truth wins, even when it takes a long time, even when it's hard. Marcus felt tears prick his eyes. Your mommy was the smartest person I ever knew. I know, Maya smiled. That's why I know you're going to be okay, Daddy, because you told the truth. Marcus held his daughter's hand and watched her drift back to sleep. The cartoons played silently on the TV. Outside, the world was exploding with news about Victoria Sterling and the janitor who had exposed her. But in this small hospital room, there was only a father and his daughter holding on to each other. His phone buzzed. A text from Denise. Jerome is out. He wants to meet. Says he has more information. Marcus looked at Maya sleeping peacefully. Where? He texted back. My office. 1 hour. Bring the folder. Marcus texted Samuel and asked him to come sit with Maya. The old janitor arrived within 30 minutes, huffing from the stairs because the elevator was too slow. You doing okay, son? I'm fighting Sam, like you said. Samuel nodded. Good. That little girl in there needs a fighter. I need to meet with my lawyer, and Jerome Hayes. The sound engineer, I heard they arrested him. He's out now. He says he has more information. Marcus looked back at Maya's room. Can you stay with her? I don't want her to wake up alone. You don't even have to ask. Samuel put a hand on Marcus's shoulder. Go do what you need to do. I'll be right here. Marcus took the subway to Denise's office in Midtown. The folder was tucked inside his jacket, pressed against his chest like armor. People on the train recognized him. Some pointed. Some took pictures. One woman came up and shook his hand. I saw what you did last night. My daughter has the same disease as yours. Thank you for standing up. Marcus didn't know what to say, so he just nodded. Denise's office was on the 14th floor of a glass tower that made Marcus feel completely out of place. The receptionist looked at his janitor's uniform with barely concealed disdain. I'm here to see Denise Chambers. Do you have an appointment? She's expecting me. Marcus Thompson. The receptionist's expression changed instantly. Mr. Thompson. Of course. Right this way. He was led to a conference room where Denise was already waiting. Beside her sat Jerome Hayes, looking exhausted but determined. His wrists showed red marks from the handcuffs. Marcus. Jerome stood and extended his hand. Thank you. For what? For telling the truth. For doing what I should have done years ago. They shook hands and sat down. Denise spread several documents across the table. Jerome has been telling me about Victoria's operation. It's worse than we thought. Much worse, Jerome said. His voice was hoarse, like he'd been talking for hours. The lip syncing is just the beginning. Victoria has been running the same scam for over a decade. Charity concerts, benefit galas, fundraising events. She makes promises about where the money will go, and then she keeps most of it. I already know about the 15%. That's what the public filings show. The reality is even worse. Jerome pulled out a tablet and showed Marcus a spreadsheet. I helped manage some of the back-end finances for these events. Production costs, venue rentals, equipment. Except most of those costs were inflated, sometimes by 300 or 400%. Marcus studied the numbers, but couldn't make sense of them. Explain it to me. Let's say Victoria rents a venue for $50,000. The charity report says she paid $200,000. The difference goes into an account controlled by her management company. Same thing with production costs, catering, security. Jerome scrolled through the spreadsheet. Over the past 10 years, my estimate is that Victoria has diverted at least $20 million from charitable donations into her own pockets. Marcus felt sick. $20 million. At least. And every cent of it was supposed to go to sick children. Cancer patients. Kids with heart disease. Kids like your daughter. Denise jumped in. This goes beyond civil litigation. If Jerome's allegations are accurate, Victoria Sterling has committed wire fraud, tax evasion, and potentially racketeering. These are federal crimes. So why hasn't anyone stopped her? Because she has money. She has lawyers. She has connections. Jerome's voice was bitter. And she has NDAs. Anyone who works for her has to sign one. Anyone who knows anything has to stay silent or face financial ruin. But you're talking now. Jerome looked Marcus directly in the eyes. I spent 7 years helping her lie. I watched her destroy careers, silence critics, steal from charities. I told myself it wasn't my problem. I told myself I was just doing my job. He paused. Then I watched you stand on that stage last night. A janitor with nothing. No money, no power, no protection. And you told the truth anyway. Jerome's voice cracked slightly. I have a son. He's 5. Last night after I spoke up after Victoria fired me, I called my wife. I told her what I'd done. She asked me why. Why now after all these years? He took a breath. I told her about you, about your daughter, about how a man with everything to lose found the courage to speak. And I asked myself what kind of father I would be if I kept staying silent while men like you did all the fighting. Marcus didn't know what to say. So here I am, Jerome continued. I'll testify to everything. The lip-syncing, the charity fraud the NDAs use to silence people. Whatever it takes. Denise nodded approvingly. With Jerome's testimony, Denise Williams' documents, and the video from last night, we have enough to go on a fence. I'm filing our countersuit this afternoon. What about Victoria's lawsuit against me? I'm going to file a motion to dismiss. Given the evidence we have, no judge will let this case proceed. Denise gathered the documents. But I want you to understand something, Marcus. Victoria Sterling is not going to go quietly. She has resources we can't match. She has connections in the media, in the legal system, in government. She will try everything to destroy you before this reaches trial. I know. Do you? Because it's going to get worse before it gets better. They're going to dig into your past. They're going to harass your friends, your family. They're going to try to find anything they can use against you. There's nothing to find. Then they'll make something up. Denise's expression was deadly serious. The next few weeks are going to be the hardest of your life. I need to know you're ready for that. Marcus thought of Maya, of the hospital room, of the transplant that might finally save her life. I've been through hard. I've been through losing my wife. I've been through watching my daughter fight cancer while working 2 jobs just to keep a roof over our heads. He looked at Denise, then at Jerome. I'm ready. Denise nodded. Then let's get to work. They spent the next 3 hours preparing the countersuit. Marcus signed documents he didn't fully understand, answered questions about his finances, his work history, his relationship with Victoria Sterling. By 4 o'clock, everything was ready. I'll file these today, Denise said. By tomorrow morning, Victoria Sterling is going to wake up to a very different reality. Marcus's phone buzzed, a text from Samuel. Maya's asking for you. She's getting anxious. I have to go. Of course. Denise walked him to the elevator. I'll call you tonight with updates. In the meantime, stay off social media. Don't read the comments. Don't respond to messages. Don't engage with anyone. Understood. The elevator doors opened. Marcus stepped inside, then turned back. Denise. Yeah. Why are you doing this really? Pro bono. The bail money. All of it. Why? Denise was quiet for a moment. Because I grew up poor. Because I watched my mother die from a disease that could have been treated if we'd had money. Because I became a lawyer so I could fight for people who can't fight for themselves. She paused. And because what you did last night reminded me why I started this job in the first place. The elevator doors closed, and Marcus rode down to the lobby alone. When he got back to the hospital, Maya was awake and restless. Samuel was reading her a story, but she lit up the moment Marcus walked in. Daddy, Mr. Samuel was telling me about the time he met Michael Jackson at the Apollo. Is that so? Marcus pulled up a chair beside her bed. "Did he tell you about the moonwalk?" "He showed me, but he's not very good at it." Samuel laughed. "I'm 68 years old, little girl. I'm lucky I can still walk forward." Maya giggled, and for a moment, everything felt normal. Just a father, his daughter, and an old friend sharing stories in a hospital room. Then Dr. Patterson knocked on the door. "Mr. Thompson, can I speak with you for a moment?" Marcus followed her into the hallway. His heart was already racing. "Is something wrong?" "No, actually, something is very right." Dr. Patterson was smiling, which was unusual for her. "The freeze on your GoFundMe has been lifted. The judge ruled that Victoria Sterling's claims were without merit." Marcus felt his legs weaken. "What?" "The money is available. All of it." Dr. Patterson put a hand on his arm. "Marcus, we can schedule Maya's transplant for next week. We found a donor match 3 days ago, but we couldn't proceed without funding. Now we can." Marcus couldn't speak. His vision blurred with tears. "Your daughter is going to get her transplant," Dr. Patterson continued. "She's going to have a chance." Marcus leaned against the wall, overwhelmed. 6 years of struggle, of poverty, of watching his daughter slip away piece by piece. And now finally there was hope. "Thank you," he managed. "Thank you." "Don't thank me. Thank yourself." Dr. Patterson's smile widened. "What you did at the Apollo didn't just expose Victoria Sterling. It saved your daughter's life." Marcus walked back into Maya's room on unsteady legs. She looked up at him, immediately concerned. "Daddy, are you crying?" "What's wrong?" Marcus knelt beside her bed and took her hands. "Nothing's wrong, baby. Everything is right." He kissed her forehead. "You're going to get your transplant. Next week. The doctors found someone who can help you." Maya's eyes went wide. "Really? Really? Does that mean I'm going to get better?" Marcus nodded, tears streaming down his face. "Yeah, baby. You're going to get better." Maya threw her arms around him, and Marcus held his daughter tighter than he'd ever held anything in his life. Samuel stood quietly in the corner, wiping his own eyes. Outside, the sun was setting over Harlem. Somewhere in the city, Victoria Sterling's lawyers were reading the countersuit that would unravel everything she had built. Somewhere, journalists were digging into her charity finances. Somewhere, other studio singers were finding the courage to speak up. But in this small hospital room, none of that mattered. All that mattered was a father and his daughter holding each other, finally believing that tomorrow might be better than today. Marcus's phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. "Mr. Thompson, this is Quincy Jones III. I've been trying to reach you. When your legal situation is resolved, I'd like to discuss your future in music. You have a gift. The world needs to hear it." Marcus read the message twice. Then he put the phone in his pocket and turned back to his daughter. The world could wait. Right now, Maya needed him. And this time, he wasn't going anywhere. The morning of Maya's transplant arrived like every other morning Marcus had experienced for the past 6 years. He woke before dawn, his body trained by years of early shifts. But today, instead of reaching for his janitor's uniform, he sat on the edge of Maya's hospital bed and watched his daughter sleep, 7 years old, 42 pounds, fighting for her life. "Daddy!" Maya's eyes fluttered open. "Is it time?" "Almost, baby. The doctors will come get you in about an hour." Maya reached for his hand. Her fingers were cold, thin, fragile as bird bones. "I'm scared, Daddy." "I know. Me too. You're scared." "Terrified." Marcus squeezed her hand gently. "But you know what your mommy used to say. Being brave means you're scared, but you do it anyway." "That's right." Marcus leaned down and kissed her forehead. "And you're the bravest person I know, Maya Thompson." She smiled, that same smile that had kept him going through the darkest nights of the past 6 years. "Will you sing to me, Daddy, before they take me?" Marcus's throat tightened. He hadn't sung since that night at the Apollo. Hadn't felt the urge, hadn't found the strength. But his daughter was asking, and he would never deny her anything. "What do you want to hear?" "Mommy's song. The one you used to sing together." Marcus closed his eyes and let the memory wash over him. Keisha in the kitchen dancing while she cooked. Marcus coming up behind her, wrapping his arms around her waist. The two of them swaying together, singing "His Eye is on the Sparrow" in perfect harmony. He opened his mouth and began to sing. "Why should I feel discouraged? Why should the shadows come?" His voice was rough at first, rusty from disuse. But as the words flowed, something loosened in his chest. The melody filled the small hospital room, pushing back the fear, and the antiseptic smell, and the steady beep of machines. "I sing because I'm happy. I sing because I'm free." Maya closed her eyes, a peaceful smile spreading across her face. "His eye is on the sparrow, and I know he watches me." When the song ended, Marcus opened his eyes and found Dr. Patterson standing in the doorway. The oncologist's eyes were glistening. "That was beautiful, Mr. Thompson." "It was Mommy's favorite," Maya said softly. Dr. Patterson walked to the bed and checked Maya's vitals one last time. "We're ready. The surgical team is prepping now." She looked at Marcus. "You can walk with her to the OR. We'll take care of her from there." Marcus nodded, not trusting his voice. The orderlies came with a gurney. Marcus helped lift Maya onto it, arranging her stuffed elephant beside her. They began the long walk through the hospital corridors, past the nurses' station where the staff had gathered to watch, past the waiting room where Samuel sat praying with his hands clasped together. The old janitor stood as they passed. "You got this, little warrior," Samuel called out. "We'll all be right here when you wake up." Maya waved weakly. They reached the operating room doors. A nurse gently stopped Marcus. "This is as far as you can go, sir." Marcus knelt beside the gurney, bringing his face level with Maya's. "I love you, baby girl, more than anything in this world." "I love you too, Daddy." Maya's voice was getting drowsy from the sedatives. "Will you still be here when I wake up?" "I'll never leave you, Maya, I promise." She smiled and closed her eyes. The doors swung open, and they wheeled his daughter away. Marcus stood frozen, watching until the doors closed completely. Then his legs gave out, and he collapsed against the wall, sliding down until he was sitting on the cold hospital floor. Samuel appeared beside him. "Come on, son. Let's get you to the waiting room." "I can't move, Sam." "I know." The old man sat down beside him on the floor. "Then we'll wait right here." They sat in silence as the minutes ticked by. Nurses walked past, offering sympathetic glances. Other patients rolled by in wheelchairs. Life continued around them, while Marcus's entire world hung suspended behind those operating room doors. An hour passed. Then 2. Marcus's phone buzzed. A text from Denise Chambers. "Victoria's lawyers are requesting an emergency meeting. They want to negotiate." He stared at the message without responding. Another hour passed. His phone buzzed again. "Marcus, this is important. They're offering to drop all charges in exchange for your silence. No lawsuit, no countersuit, no public statements. They want this to go away." Marcus typed a response with trembling fingers. "My daughter is in surgery. I can't deal with this right now." Denise's reply came immediately. "I understand, but they're giving us 24 hours to respond. After that, they say they're going all in. Every resource, every connection. They're threatening to bury you." Marcus turned off his phone and went back to staring at the operating room doors. 4 hours, in Dr. Patterson emerged. Marcus scrambled to his feet. His heart was pounding so hard he could hear it in his ears. "The surgery is progressing well," Dr. Patterson said quickly, seeing the terror on his face. "Maya is stable. The transplant team is about halfway done. I just wanted to give you an update." "Is she going to be okay?" "We're optimistic. The donor match is excellent. Maya's body is responding well to the procedure." Dr. Patterson put a hand on his shoulder. She's a fighter, Mr. Thompson. She's fighting hard in there. That's my girl. Dr. Patterson smiled. I need to get back. I'll update you again in a few hours. She disappeared through the doors, and Marcus sank back into his chair. Samuel hadn't moved the entire time. Good news, son. She's not out yet. But she's fighting. That's what matters. Another 2 hours passed. Marcus couldn't eat, couldn't sleep, couldn't think about anything except Maya lying on that operating table, her chest open, her life in someone else's hands. At hour 7, his phone rang. He almost ignored it, but the caller ID said, Denise Chambers. He answered. Marcus, I need you to turn on the news. I'm at the hospital. Maya's still in surgery. I know, but you need to see this. Denise's voice was urgent. Victoria Sterling is holding a press conference. Right now. Samuel pulled out his phone and found a live stream. The two of them huddled together, watching the small screen. Victoria Sterling stood behind a podium flanked by her lawyers. She looked different than she had at the Apollo. Smaller, somehow. Diminished. Ladies and gentlemen of the press, Victoria began, her voice carefully modulated. I have called this conference to address the malicious accusations that have been leveled against me over the past week. Marcus watched without expression. I want to be clear, I have never intentionally deceived my fans or the public. Any use of backing tracks in my performances was standard industry practice disclosed in my tour contracts. The suggestion that I have committed fraud is categorically false. A reporter raised his hand. Ms. Sterling, what about the studio singer Denise Williams? Multiple sources have confirmed that she provided vocals for your albums without proper credit. Victoria's composure flickered. Ms. Williams was a studio collaborator who was compensated fairly for her contributions. Any suggestion that she was the primary vocalist on my records is absurd and defamatory. Another reporter jumped in. What about the charity allegations? Records show that less than 15% of your charitable donations reached their intended recipients. My charitable foundation has always operated within legal parameters. Administrative costs are a normal part of any nonprofit organization. Is it true that you're dropping your lawsuit against Marcus Thompson? Victoria's smile tightened. That is not. We are exploring various legal options and... Ms. Sterling. A reporter in the front row stood up. We've just received confirmation that Denise Williams has agreed to testify before a federal grand jury about vocal fraud. Do you have any comment? The color drained from Victoria's face. This press conference is over. She turned and walked away from the podium as reporters shouted questions. Her lawyers hurried after her, their faces grim. Samuel looked at Marcus. Federal grand jury. That's serious. Yeah. You okay? Marcus looked back at the operating room doors. I won't be okay until my daughter is out of surgery. But somewhere in the back of his mind, a small flame of hope was growing. Victoria Sterling was crumbling. The truth was coming out. And maybe, just maybe, justice was actually possible. Hour 8 came and went. Marcus had stopped looking at his phone, stopped responding to texts. The world outside this hospital might as well not exist. Then, at 8 hours and 47 minutes, Dr. Patterson pushed through the operating room doors. Her surgical mask was pulled down around her neck. Her eyes were red from strain, and she was smiling. The surgery was successful. Marcus felt his legs give way. Samuel caught him, kept him upright. Maya came through beautifully, Dr. Patterson continued. The transplant went as well as we could have hoped. She's in recovery now. Her vital signs are strong. Can I see her? Not yet. She needs to rest in the ICU for a few hours. But you can sit with her once she's stabilized. Dr. Patterson's smile widened. Your daughter is a remarkable young lady, Mr. Thompson. She never stopped fighting. Marcus couldn't speak. Tears were streaming down his face, and he didn't care who saw them. Samuel was crying too openly and without shame. Thank you. Marcus finally managed. "Thank you for saving my daughter." "Thank yourself. That GoFundMe money made this possible. That performance at the Apollo." Dr. Patterson shook her head in wonder. "You saved her, Mr. Thompson. You and that voice of yours." She went back through the doors, leaving Marcus and Samuel standing in the hallway, holding each other up. "She's going to be okay," Marcus whispered. "She's going to be okay," Samuel repeated. They stayed like that for a long time. Two men who had fought their whole lives finally allowing themselves to believe that sometimes the fight was worth it. 2 hours later, Marcus was finally allowed into the ICU. Maya lay in a hospital bed surrounded by machines. Tubes and wires connected her to monitors that beeped and hummed. Her eyes were closed, her breathing slow and steady. Marcus pulled a chair up beside her and took her hand. "I'm here, baby. Daddy's right here." Maya didn't respond. She was deep in drug-induced sleep, her body working to accept the new cells that would save her life. Marcus sat there for hours, watching her chest rise and fall, counting each breath like a prayer. At some point, he became aware of footsteps behind him. He turned to find Denise Chambers standing in the doorway. "How is she?" "The doctors say she's doing well. They're optimistic." Denise nodded relief evident on her face. "I'm sorry to bother you here, but there's something you need to know." Marcus didn't move from Maya's side. "What is it?" Victoria Sterling's lawyers called again. "They're not just offering to drop the lawsuit anymore." Denise paused. "They're offering a settlement, $2 million, in exchange for your silence and a signed agreement that you'll never discuss what happened at the Apollo." Marcus looked at his daughter. $2 million, more money than he would ever see in a lifetime of mopping floors. "And if I say no, then they proceed with the lawsuit. They drag it out for years. They make your life hell." Denise's voice was measured. "But Marcus, you need to understand something. The federal investigation has changed everything. Victoria's lawyers aren't negotiating from strength anymore. They're desperate. They know that if this goes to trial, everything comes out. The fraud, the stolen voices, the charity scams. All of it. So why don't they just give up? Because Victoria Sterling would rather spend $10 million on lawyers than admit she was wrong. Because her ego won't let her." Denise stepped closer. "But here's the thing. If we reject the settlement and proceed with our countersuit, we're not just fighting for you anymore. We're fighting for Denise Williams, who was silenced for 12 years. We're fighting for Jerome Hayes, who lost his career for telling the truth. We're fighting for every child who was supposed to receive charity money that ended up in Victoria's pockets." Marcus was quiet for a long moment. "What do you think I should do?" "I can't make that decision for you. This is your life, your daughter." Denise sat down across from him. "But I'll tell you what I believe. I believe the world needs to know the truth. I believe Victoria Sterling needs to face consequences for what she's done. And I believe you're the person who can make that happen." Marcus looked at Maya, 7 years old, fighting for her life, innocent of everything the world had done to her father. "If I take the settlement, I can give her a better life. A house, college, everything she deserves." "Yes, you could." But Victoria walks away. She keeps her secrets. Other singers stay silent. Other kids get cheated. Also, yes. Marcus closed his eyes. He thought about Keisha, about what she would say if she were here, about the values they had promised to teach their daughter. "Tell them no." Denise blinked. "Are you sure?" "Tell them no settlement, no silence. We go forward with the countersuit. We let the truth come out." Marcus opened his eyes and looked at his daughter. "I didn't fight for 6 years just to sell out now. I didn't lose my wife and almost lose my daughter just to let Victoria Sterling buy her way out of this. Marcus, I need you to understand the risks. If we go to trial and lose, we won't lose." Marcus's voice was steady. "Because we're telling the truth. And the truth always wins, even when it takes a long time. even when it's hard. Denise studied him for a long moment. Then she nodded. I'll let them know. She stood to leave, then paused at the doorway. Marcus. Yeah. Your wife would be proud of you. Marcus felt the tears coming again. I hope so. Denise left. Marcus sat alone with his daughter, holding her hand, watching her breathe. Did you hear that, Maya? He whispered. Daddy's going to fight, just like you're fighting. And we're going to win. Together. Maya's fingers twitched in his hand, a small movement barely perceptible. But to Marcus, it felt like an answer. The next 3 weeks passed in a blur. Maya's recovery was slow but steady. Each day she grew a little stronger. Each day her blood counts improved a little more. The doctors were cautiously optimistic. The transplant appeared to be taking hold. Meanwhile, the world outside the hospital was on fire. Victoria Sterling's empire was collapsing in real time. The federal investigation expanded. 3 more studio singers came forward with evidence of vocal fraud. The IRS announced an audit of her charitable foundation. 2 of her Grammy Awards were placed under review. Marcus refused all interview requests. He stayed by Maya's side, watching her heal, watching the world change through the window of a hospital room. On day 22, Maya was finally discharged. Marcus carried her out of the hospital in his arms, even though she insisted she could walk. A crowd had gathered outside. Reporters, well-wishers, people holding signs that said, "We believe you," and "Justice for Maya." Marcus ignored them all. He walked straight to Samuel's truck, buckled Maya into the back seat, and drove home. Their apartment in Harlem had never looked so beautiful. The peeling paint, the drafty windows, the refrigerator that hummed too loud. All of it felt like heaven. Maya fell asleep on the couch within 10 minutes of arriving home. Marcus covered her with a blanket and sat beside her, watching her breathe. His phone rang. Denise Chambers. Marcus, I have news. Tell me. Victoria Sterling's lawyers filed for bankruptcy protection this morning. Her assets are being frozen, and the federal prosecutor has indicated they're moving forward with criminal charges. Marcus let the words sink in. So it's over. The criminal case against Victoria just beginning. But the civil suit? Yes, it's over. Denise's voice was filled with satisfaction. Her lawyers have agreed to dismiss all claims against you. They're also agreeing to pay your legal fees, medical expenses, and compensatory damages. How much? $3.2 million. Marcus nearly dropped the phone. That's not possible. It's very possible, and it's happening. Denise laughed. You won, Marcus. You stood up to one of the most powerful people in the music industry, and you won. Marcus looked at Maya sleeping peacefully on the couch. No, we won, all of us. Denise Williams, Jerome Hayes, everyone who told the truth. There's more. Quincy Jones III has been calling my office every day for the past 2 weeks. He still wants to meet with you. He's talking about a record deal, a real one, full creative control, ownership of your music, everything an artist could want. I don't know if I'm ready for that. You don't have to decide now. Take care of your daughter. Let her heal. The world will wait. Marcus thanked her and hung up. He sat in silence, processing everything. $3.2 million. A record deal waiting. His daughter home and healing. 6 years ago, he had lost everything. His wife, his career, his future. Now, somehow, against all odds, he had gotten it back. Maya stirred on the couch. Daddy. I'm here, baby. I'm hungry. Marcus smiled. It was the first time she'd said that in months. What do you want to eat? Pancakes, with chocolate chips and whipped cream. Chocolate chip pancakes with whipped cream coming right up. Marcus went to the kitchen and started cooking. The simple act of making breakfast for his daughter felt like a miracle. His phone buzzed. A text from Samuel. How's the little warrior? Marcus took a photo of Maya on the couch wrapped in her blanket and sent it back. "She's home. She's hungry. She's going to be okay." Samuel's reply came instantly. "Best news I've heard in 68 years. You did good, son. Your wife would be so proud." Marcus felt the tears coming again. He didn't fight them. He made the pancakes. He piled them high with chocolate chips and whipped cream. He carried the plate to Maya, who attacked it with an enthusiasm he hadn't seen in years. "These are the best pancakes ever, Daddy." "That's because they're made with love." Maya looked up at him, her mouth smeared with whipped cream. "Are we going to be okay now, Daddy? For real?" Marcus knelt beside his daughter and wiped the whipped cream from her face. "Yeah, baby. We're going to be okay. For real." She smiled that sunshine smile. Keisha's smile. "Good, because I was getting tired of being sick." Marcus laughed. Really laughed for the first time in months. "Me too, baby. Me too." Outside, the sun was setting over Harlem. Somewhere in the city, Victoria Sterling's lawyers were preparing for criminal proceedings. Somewhere, journalists were uncovering new evidence of her fraud. Somewhere, other singers were finding the courage to speak their truth. But in this small apartment, none of that mattered. All that mattered was a father and his daughter eating chocolate chip pancakes, finally believing that tomorrow would be better than today. Marcus's phone buzzed one more time. A text from a number he didn't recognize. "Mr. Thompson, this is Gladys Knight. I've been following your story since that night at the Apollo. When you're ready, I'd like to talk to you about something. About a concert I'm planning. A concert to raise money for children with cancer. Real money for real children. I want you to headline it. Call me when your daughter is well enough for you to dream again." Marcus read the message twice. Then he put his phone away and turned back to Maya. The world could wait. His daughter was home. And for the first time in 6 years, Marcus Thompson allowed himself to dream. 18 months had passed since that night at the Apollo. Marcus stood backstage, his hands trembling the same way they had trembled when Victoria Sterling dragged him into the spotlight. But everything else was different now. The uniform was gone. The mop was gone. The fear was gone. Tonight, he was headlining. "Daddy, you're shaking." Maya appeared beside him, 9 years old now, healthy and radiant. The surgical scar on her chest had faded to a thin silver line, barely visible beneath her t-shirt that read, "My daddy's voice saved me." "I'm nervous, baby." "You nervous?" Maya grinned. "You sang in front of 3 million people, and you're nervous now." "That was different. I didn't have time to think about it." "Well, stop thinking about it." Maya took his hand. "Just sing the way you sing for me." Marcus looked down at his daughter. 9 years old, 48 pounds, now growing stronger every day. Her blood counts were perfect. Her energy was back. She had started school again last month, making friends, causing trouble, being a normal kid for the first time in years. "Your mommy would be so proud of you, Maya." "I know." She squeezed his hand. "She'd be proud of you too, Daddy. Now go out there and show them what you got." A voice came through the backstage speakers. 5 minutes, Mr. Thompson." Marcus took a deep breath. The road from that hospital room to this stage had been longer and harder than anyone could imagine. The settlement money had arrived 3 months after Maya's transplant. $3.2 million deposited into an account Marcus could barely believe belonged to him. The first thing he did was pay off every debt. Medical bills back, rent the loans he had taken out to keep Maya alive. Then he bought a house, nothing fancy, a 3-bedroom in a quiet neighborhood in Brooklyn with a backyard where Maya could play and a kitchen where Marcus could cook Sunday dinners. The second thing he did was establish a foundation. He called it Unbroken Voices. It provided scholarships for young singers from working-class backgrounds, legal education about contracts and NDAs, support for artists who had been silenced by powerful people. In its first year, 50 scholarships. By the 18-month mark, 200. The third thing he did was call Quincy Jones III. The meeting had lasted 4 hours. Quincy had laid out his vision. A record deal unlike anything in the industry. Full creative control. Ownership of his music. Flexible schedule so he could be present for Maya. 15% of all revenue going directly to children's charities. Marcus had signed the contract right there. His debut album, Silent No More, had taken 6 months to record. He co-wrote it with Denise Williams, who had finally emerged from hiding after Victoria Sterling's criminal conviction. The songs told the story of everything Marcus had been through. The loss, the struggle, the silence the moment he found his voice again. The album went gold in 8 weeks. Platinum in 4 months. 2 minutes, Mr. Thompson. Marcus closed his eyes and said a prayer. For Keisha, who had believed in him when no one else did. For Maya, who had given him a reason to keep fighting. For Samuel, who had been like a father to him when his own father was long gone. For everyone who had ever been told their voice didn't matter. 1 minute. He opened his eyes. Samuel appeared beside him wearing a suit for the first time in Marcus's memory. The old janitor had finally retired last month after 42 years at the Apollo. Tonight, he was an honored guest. You ready, son? As ready as I'll ever be. Then go show them. Samuel put a hand on Marcus's shoulder. Show them what a janitor can do. The lights dimmed. The crowd roared. 2,400 people on their feet chanting his name. Marcus Thompson walked onto the stage. The Apollo Theater looked different from this angle. Not as a janitor looking up at the stars, but as a star looking out at a sea of faces. He could see Maya in the front row sitting between Samuel and Dr. Patterson. He could see Denise Williams and Jerome Hayes a few rows back. He could see Gladys Knight in the VIP section beaming with pride. He could see people he didn't know. Janitors, nurses, teachers, single parents. People who had lined up since dawn to get tickets. People who had seen themselves in his story. People who needed to believe that sometimes the truth wins. Good evening, Apollo. The crowd erupted. Marcus waited for the noise to die down. His heart was pounding, but his hands had stopped shaking. 18 months ago, I stood on this stage holding a mop. Victoria Sterling dragged me into the spotlight and told me to sing. She thought she was going to humiliate me. He paused. She was wrong. The cheers were deafening. Tonight, I'm not here to talk about Victoria Sterling. She's facing her own consequences now. 8 counts of wire fraud. 3 counts of tax evasion. Criminal prosecution that could put her away for 20 years. Marcus looked out at the crowd. Tonight I'm here to talk about something else. About the people who told the truth when it would have been easier to stay silent. About the studio singers who spent decades in the shadows, giving their voices to stars who took all the credit. About the children who needed help and didn't get it because someone decided their money was more important than their lives. He gestured to the side of the stage. I want to introduce some people. Denise Williams walked out first. The woman whose voice had built Victoria Sterling's career. She was 62 now, finally free of the NDA that had silenced her for 12 years. She had released her own album 3 months ago. It had won a Grammy. Denise Williams, everyone. The crowd rose to their feet. Jerome Hayes came out next, the sound engineer who had lost everything to tell the truth. He had started his own production company, now working exclusively with artists who valued honesty over image. Jerome Hayes. More applause. One by one they came. The studio singers who had been silenced, the charity workers who had discovered the fraud, the journalists who had dug into Victoria's finances, the lawyers who had fought for justice. 23 people stood on that stage. 23 voices that had been ignored, dismissed, or threatened into silence. 23 ordinary people who had chosen truth over comfort. These are the real heroes, Marcus said. I just sang a song. They changed an industry. The cheers lasted for 3 full minutes. When the noise finally died down, Marcus turned to the band. Let's make some music. He opened with Rise Again, the same song Victoria Sterling had used to humiliate him. the same song that had exposed her fraud. But tonight, it meant something different. Tonight, it was a celebration. When Marcus reached the climax, he didn't just hit the B6, he soared past it. C6, D6, E6. Notes that seemed impossible, delivered with an ease that made the audience gasp. The song ended. The crowd exploded. Marcus sang for 2 hours, songs from his album, Gospel Classics. A duet with Gladys Knight that brought tears to half the audience. A new song he had written for Maya about a little girl who taught her father what courage really meant. For the final number, he called Maya onto the stage. She walked out confidently, no longer the fragile child who had spent years fighting cancer. She was healthy now, strong, radiant. "This is my daughter Maya," Marcus said into the microphone. "2 years ago, I almost lost her. In that fear, I found my voice again. Not for fame, not for money, for love." Maya took the microphone. "Hi everyone. My daddy used to sing me to sleep every night when I was sick. He said his voice was the only medicine he could afford." The audience laughed and cried at the same time. "But it worked," Maya continued. "The doctors couldn't explain it, but every time he sang my heart got stronger. So I guess his voice really is magic." She looked up at her father. "Ready, Daddy." "Ready, baby." They sang "His Eye is on the Sparrow" together. Marcus's rich baritone blending with Maya's sweet, clear soprano, father and daughter, survivor and survivor, their voices rising together in the historic theater where so many legends had performed. When the song ended, the audience didn't just stand. They roared. They cried. They held up their phones with lights blazing, creating a galaxy of stars in the darkened theater. Marcus looked out at the sea of faces. "I have one more thing to say." The theater quieted. 18 months ago, I was a janitor who couldn't afford his daughter's medicine. I was invisible, forgotten, written off. He paused. "But I want everyone here to understand something. I'm not special. I'm not unique. There are millions of people just like me, working double shifts, counting pennies, lying awake at night wondering how they're going to make it to tomorrow." His voice grew stronger. "And every single one of them has a voice. Every single one of them has a story. Every single one of them matters." He looked directly into the cameras that were broadcasting to millions of viewers around the world. "To everyone watching who feels invisible. To everyone who's been told to stay in their place. To everyone who's been silenced by people with more money and more power." Marcus took a breath. "Your voice matters. Your story matters. You matter. And nobody can take that from you." The theater erupted one final time. Marcus stood on that stage holding his daughter's hand, looking out at a world that had finally heard him. The curtain fell. But the story didn't end there. Backstage, the chaos was overwhelming. Reporters shouting questions, photographers snapping pictures, well-wishers trying to shake his hand. Marcus pushed through all of it, keeping Maya close. They found Samuel in a quiet corner, tears streaming down the old man's face. "I worked in this theater for 42 years, Samuel said. "I watched Aretha Franklin perform. I watched James Brown. I watched every great artist who ever graced that stage." He looked at Marcus. "Tonight was the best show I've ever seen." Marcus hugged him tight. "I couldn't have done it without you, Sam. You believed in me when I couldn't believe in myself. That's what family does." Dr. Patterson appeared next, still wiping tears from her eyes. "Maya's doing great, by the way. I just checked her latest blood work. Perfect counts across the board." "She's a fighter," Marcus said. "Just like her father." The crowd eventually thinned. The cameras eventually left. The theater eventually emptied. Marcus, Maya, and Samuel walked out the back door of the Apollo into the cool Harlem night. The street was quiet. A few people lingered on the sidewalk, hoping for a glimpse of the new star. But mostly, it was just the three of them walking together under the streetlights. "Daddy, yeah, baby, what happens now?" Marcus thought about the question. What happened now was a world tour. 23 cities in 12 countries. Sold-out stadiums filled with people who wanted to hear his voice. What Happened Now was a second album, already in the works with collaborations from artists who had reached out from around the world. What happened now was continued advocacy. The Thompson Act, as the press had started calling it, was being considered by Congress, a law requiring full transparency for live performances and charitable donations. If it passed, it would change the music industry forever. What happened now was justice. Victoria Sterling's trial was scheduled for next month. Federal prosecutors were confident of conviction. 20 years, they said, maybe more. But Marcus didn't say any of that. Instead, he looked down at his daughter and smiled. What happens now is we go home. I make you chocolate chip pancakes, and we watch a movie together. Maya grinned. Can we watch The Lion King? Again. That's the 4th time this week. It's the best movie ever made. Marcus laughed. Fine. The Lion King it is. They walked toward Samuel's truck parked at the end of the block. The old janitor had insisted on driving them home, just like he had insisted on being there for every important moment of the past 2 years. Samuel, Marcus said as they reached the truck. Yeah, thank you for everything. Samuel opened the door and helped Maya into the back seat. You don't have to thank me, son. You did all the hard work. No, I mean thank you for seeing me. When everyone else looked through me, you saw me. Samuel was quiet for a moment. You know why I noticed you that first day, when you came to work at the Apollo. Why? Because you sang. While you were mopping the floor, you sang under your breath. You probably didn't even realize you were doing it. But I heard you. Samuel's eyes glistened. And I knew right then that you didn't belong with a mop in your hand. You belonged on that stage. Marcus felt his throat tighten. I spent a lot of years being invisible. I know, but you're not invisible anymore. Samuel clapped him on the shoulder. Now get in the truck. Your daughter wants pancakes. They drove through the Harlem streets past the corner where Marcus used to wait for the bus at 4 a.m., past the restaurant where he had washed dishes for 5 years, past the church where he and Keisha had gotten married. Maya fell asleep in the back seat, exhausted from the excitement of the night. Marcus watched the city go by and thought about how different everything looked now. Not because the buildings had changed, not because the streets had changed, but because he had changed. He had spent 6 years believing that his life was over, that his dreams were dead, that the best he could hope for was survival. He had been wrong. The truth was that his story was never about what he lost. It was about what he found. Courage, purpose, a voice that refused to be silenced. And most importantly, love. The love of a daughter who gave him a reason to keep fighting. The love of friends who believed in him when he couldn't believe in himself. The love of a wife who even from beyond the grave kept pushing him toward his destiny. They pulled up to the house in Brooklyn, the house Marcus had bought with the settlement money. The house where Maya had her own room decorated with pictures of her mother and posters of her father's album. Samuel helped carry Maya inside. She was still half asleep, mumbling about pancakes and lions. Marcus tucked her into bed and kissed her forehead. Good night, baby girl. Night, Daddy. Her eyes were already closing. I'm proud of you. I'm proud of you too, Maya. More than you'll ever know. She was asleep before he finished the sentence. Marcus walked downstairs and found Samuel in the kitchen already pulling out ingredients for pancakes. You don't have to do that, Sam. I know, but I want to. The old man cracked eggs into a bowl. Besides, you just performed for 2 hours. You need to eat. They made pancakes together the way Marcus and Keisha used to do on Sunday mornings. The smell of butter and batter filled the kitchen. For a moment, it almost felt like she was there with them. You know what Keisha would say if she could see you now? Samuel asked. What? She'd say, about damn time, Marcus Thompson. I told you so. Marcus laughed. Really laughed, the kind of laugh that comes from somewhere deep and true. Yeah, that sounds like her. They ate pancakes at the kitchen table, two men who had become family through shared struggle and shared hope. Outside, the sun was starting to rise over Brooklyn. "What are you going to do now?" Samuel asked between bites. "What do you mean? You've got money, you've got fame, you've got a career most people only dream about." Samuel set down his fork. "What's next?" Marcus thought about it. "I'm going to keep singing, because that's what I was born to do. And I'm going to keep fighting, for the people who don't have a voice, for the kids who need help, for everyone who's ever been told they don't matter." Samuel nodded approvingly. "That's a good answer. What about you? What are you going to do with retirement?" Samuel grinned. "I'm going to follow you around on tour. Someone's got to keep you humble." Marcus laughed. "Deal." They finished their pancakes as the sun rose higher. Eventually, Samuel gathered his things and headed for the door. "Same time tomorrow?" Marcus asked. "Wouldn't miss it for the world." The old man left, and Marcus was alone in his kitchen. He walked to the window and looked out at the Brooklyn morning. Cars were starting to move. People were heading to work. The city was waking up. Somewhere out there, a janitor was mopping a floor, dreaming of something more. Somewhere out there, a single parent was working a double shift, hoping their child would be okay. Somewhere out there, someone was being told to stay in their place, to keep quiet, to know their role. Marcus thought about all of them. The invisible ones, the forgotten ones, the ones who had been written off. He had been one of them, not so long ago. And now he had a platform, a voice, an opportunity to show them that things could change, that dreams could come true, that sometimes against all odds the good guys won. His phone buzzed. A text from Denise Chambers. "Congratulations on last night. Incredible show. Also, the Thompson Act just passed committee. It's going to a full congressional vote next month. This is really happening, Marcus. You're changing the world." He read the message twice. Changing the world. 6 years ago, he was a janitor who couldn't afford his daughter's medicine. Now he was changing the world. He put down the phone and walked upstairs. Maya was still sleeping, her chest rising and falling steadily, her face peaceful. Marcus sat on the edge of her bed and watched his daughter breathe. "We did it, Keisha," he whispered to the empty room. "We really did it." He could almost hear her voice, that warm, gentle voice that had always known exactly what to say. "I knew you would, baby. I always knew." Marcus smiled. He kissed Maya's forehead one more time, then walked to his own room. He was exhausted. The show had taken everything out of him. But before he went to sleep, he did something he hadn't done in years. He opened the window. He looked out at the Brooklyn sky, now bright with morning light. And he sang. Softly, just for himself. Just for Keisha. Just for Maya. "His eye is on the sparrow, and I know he watches me." The melody drifted out into the morning air, carried on the wind to wherever it needed to go. Marcus Thompson closed the window, lay down on his bed and slept. He dreamed of Keisha, of the kitchen in their first apartment, the two of them dancing while she cooked, of her telling him that one day the whole world would hear his voice. She had been right. She had always been right. When Marcus woke up 3 hours later, Maya was standing beside his bed holding a plate of burnt toast and a glass of orange juice. "I made you breakfast, Daddy." He looked at the toast. It was more black than brown. "This looks perfect, baby. I know it's not as good as your pancakes, but I wanted to do something nice for you." Marcus sat up and took the plate. "This is the best breakfast anyone has ever made me." He ate every bite. And as he chewed the burnt toast, watching his daughter beam with pride, Marcus Thompson understood something he had been too tired and too scared to see for the past 6 years. This was what happiness felt like. Not the fame, not the money, not the standing ovations or the platinum albums or the laws being passed in his name. This, right here, a father and his daughter. A quiet morning, a plate of burnt toast. This was what he had been fighting for all along. And he had won. Not because he was special, not because he was lucky, not because destiny had chosen him. He had won because he refused to give up, because he chose truth over silence, because when the world told him to stay in his place, he stood up anyway. Marcus Thompson was a janitor who sang in front of 3 million people. He was a father who saved his daughter's life. He was a man who changed an industry. But most importantly, he was someone who proved that your voice matters. No matter who you are, no matter where you come from, no matter how many people try to silence you. Your voice matters. And that is a truth that no one, no matter how powerful, can ever take away.